I went back the other day to play some Battlefield 2042 once more, and the reasons are two. I now have a better PC build than before, so the game simply plays and runs better for now compared to before. But second and foremost, I wanted to play and feel how Battlefield 2042 feels and plays in comparison with a newer game such as Delta Force, which has to be considered to be a game in the same space as Battlefield 2042. Or to be honest, Delta Force has cloned and copied a lot from Battlefield 2042 into their own game alongside with some other general Battlefield features. So is Battlefield 2042 actually better than Delta Force? Before I share my thoughts, which is just based on my experience and the feelings I get when playing these games and not any technical in-depth comparisons. I also wanted to add that it might seem to be unfair to compare a AAA title game with a free-to-play game, but Delta Force 2024 is developed by TME J3 Studio and published by TME Studio Group, if that's how you pronounce it. And the kernel-based anti-cheat system that has been talked about a lot is provided by Tencent. So I don't consider the Delta Force game to be a small or poor title per se or in any way. I spent 2 days going back and forth between Battlefield 2042 and Delta Force, which was quite an interesting feeling. The first thing that came to mind is that the movement feels faster and smoother in Battlefield 2042 compared to Delta Force. But the biggest difference, and something that made me enjoy my sessions a bit more playing Battlefield 2042 compared to Delta Force, was the gunplay. First off, I've always thought that the time to kill in Delta Force is a bit too fast, being a somewhat Battlefield-like FPS game. Add to that weapons with not so much recoil pattern and also no bullet spread from what I'm aware of, and you'll get situations where you sometimes drop very fast in Delta Force, especially since players by now have been figuring out how to make or build loadouts where most guns in combination with the right attachments can laser beam you almost from whatever distance you're at, even if they're using like an SMG or AR. This scenario or feeling isn't present in the same way when I get into Battlefield 2042. There's bloom and also bullet spread on the weapons, which is a way to balance different categories of weapons with each other. This in combination with how DICE has designed the weapons overall gives them a bit more oomph and weight, if you will, and which makes me enjoy the gunfights more compared to Delta Force. But even so, it does feel as if Battlefield 2042 has been struggling with performance issues even so. And it wasn't perfect this time around either when I played once more. What about Delta Force then and the visuals? Well, Delta Force does not look bad. I believe it's decent graphics, and the good thing with Delta Force is that it can run on some lower specs when playing on PC. But it has to be said though that when I got back into Delta Force playing the Season 2 content for the first time, I noticed a decrease in performance when it comes to me getting lower FPS than before. I mean, I still have good FPS since I have a good build, but definitely lower than Season 1. Has anyone noticed the same thing when playing Delta Force now in Season 2 after updates? When it comes to maps and map design overall, I'm sorry to say that neither games has really good maps. When it comes to DICE and Battlefield, it seems as if map design has been a bit of an Achilles heel in many games in the BF series. Even some of the OG Battlefield games has some bad map design as well, or issues I would say, but even so, I can't help feeling that the gameplay flow feels overall better in Battlefield 2042 compared to the Havoc Warfare experience, since many of the Delta Force maps aren't that great, and some of them, especially one of the new Season 2 maps, can't remember the name, feels confusing almost, like running in a maze. Well, that kind of map design in combination with the character abilities in Delta Force often creates choke points or halts even, where players get stuck throwing smoke nades or nades overall. Doesn't that happen in Battlefield or Battlefield 2042 sometimes as well? Well, yes, it sure does, but not in the same way or as often as it does in Delta Force, according to me. Map design is always a hard task for a developer, especially when there's going to be a lot of players sharing the same space and also vehicles spawning onto the map. Well, therefore, there will be often different experiences depending also what game mode you're playing on that actual map. It can differ between game modes. So I don't consider the map design to be that great in either game, although it feels as if Battlefield 2042 has been able to get a better flow going on when it comes to their maps overall. When it comes to content, you've got to give it to Delta Force in many ways. I mean, not only have they been more active releasing new content and also a bit faster compared to how DICE or an EA often do it, meaning being a bit too late in the cycle of the game, especially at the months after release, but Delta Force also offers not only the Battlefield experience in Havoc Warfare that I'm mainly referring to here in this video, but also operations, which is their extraction mode. Add to that also a single player campaign that is around the corner, and boom, you'll have a lot of gameplay content all together, and for free. We can also add to that a lot of weapons and customization options, where you can also calibrate your weapons to your liking. I mean, again, this is indeed a big plus on the Delta Force account. We all know, of course, that development when it comes to Battlefield 2042 has more or less stopped, but they actually did some updates recently, not too long ago when I'm making this video. But again, Delta Force is the new game out there, and they are really active now, getting into the new Season 2, so again, a big plus with everything they have created so far. I'm not going to talk about the different anti-cheat systems, since I've already talked about the kernel-based anti-cheat system that is being used in Delta Force, and I've done that before in another video. Let's just say that it can be a no-no or a turn-off for some people not willing to play the game because of it. So is Battlefield 2042 overall a better game compared to Delta Force? As a whole, I believe so, yes, and that comes from someone that did not enjoy the direction that DICE and EA took when they launched Battlefield 2042. It is definitely the Battlefield game throughout the years that I played the least, but even so, time has passed, and I don't find myself playing so much Battlefield at the moment, or Call of Duty for that sake either. But Battlefield 2042 can potentially fill a gap, not really being per definition a Battlefield game in the way I want them to be and be played, but a game that can fill a gap for some even in 2025 when it comes to having some fun playing an FPS game, even though the game isn't getting any new content over time any longer. What about Delta Force then? Well, the future of Delta Force is yet to be seen, of course. There's been some discussions and controversials already about the game, especially when it comes to the matchmaking algorithms, such as SBMM being in the game or not. I could go on for some time talking or even rant about that, but the short version is simply that I do not believe that SBMM or similar belongs in a sandbox Battlefield experience of a game. Especially since there's, at least for now, no distinct difference between casual or ranked in the game. Now this is also one of the red flags, if you will, that most likely has already made some players uninstall the game. But Delta Force and Battlefield can most likely also coexist as time goes by if the future development of both franchises allows it, especially once again since Delta Force is free to play. And again, it benefits the gamers, meaning us having more to choose from. But with that said, and also seeing what an ex-former DICE developer has been saying about the future development, especially the upcoming Battlefield game that will be released most likely at the end of this year, well, that makes me a bit worried. There's of course a lot of other things that I could bring up here or talk about, but this is what I felt and everything when it comes to actually getting back to the two games. I would say shoulder to shoulder, playing one a few hours and then going on to the next. So with that said, what are your experiences so far? I'm curious to hear what you think, maybe about one of the games or maybe both. Let me know in the comments. With that said, thanks for watching and have a great day. Talk to you soon again. Later.
One down!